I like to think of this as a kind of Bob Ross painting, but with wood. Hi, I'm Josh, and I'd like to show you how I designed this bed made out of 8 2x4s, built using only hand tools and with no mechanical fasteners. So, I have a 3-year-old who likes to jump on his crib, which he's fast growing out of. So he needs a bed. Being an engineer, I thought to myself, oh, this is a simple problem. I could just go to IKEA, spend 2 hours and $200 and come home with a bed that just fits. Or, being an engineer, I can spend $200 and 100 hours making a workbench out of 2x4s, and also $300 in tools and 50 more hours designing and building the bed, which was really fun. So I set out to design this bed. I have a few requirements. One, I have a 3-year-old who likes to jump on the bed, so it has to be able to handle that. I want it to be twin size, because I want this to be done for a while. I need it to be more than 13 inches above the ground, because he has toys that we need to store someplace, and our house is tiny, as you might have noticed from the tiny little shop over here. And fourth, I wanted to actually spend some time on it and put some love into it. So those are the requirements. And then the constraints that I had to satisfy here were, I had a whole lot of 2x4s left over. Actually, I bought a whole bunch of 2x4s to build this bench here, and also to build the bed. I have only hand tools and a power drill. I don't want to use mechanical fasteners. I don't want to use screws or nails or anything. Dowels kind of don't count, so I'm going to use those. And I want it to be an exercise in joinery. It's kind of a meditation or practice. So with that in mind, we came up with this design here. I'm going to show you the details now. It's made out of 8 2x4s. The uprights are 2 2x4s laminated together. It's got a 2x4 cross member here, 2x4 cross member here, and then the stretchers are 2 2x4s glued into an L with dovetails cut into them that mate into here. So these end pieces are going to be all glued together on either end. And then the stretchers will just be slotted in, and I'm going to put dowel pins through here to hold them in place. So this thing was kind of designed iteratively. I thought to myself, okay, I need to have a twin-size bed that my kid can jump on. So for that, I can just buy a twin mattress and lay it on the floor and I'm done. Problem solved. Not quite civilized, but it's problem solved. Then I realized I needed the space for storage. I needed to raise it up a little bit. So then, I'm like, okay, well, I can just buy slats at the store that go across and put some stretchers on it. And then I need the stretchers to be up more than 13 inches above the floor at the bottom. And then I need to hold them there somehow. And that's where the actual interesting part begins. This is the actual interesting part in my opinion. The next thing we needed to do was to hold the stretchers up. So you need the uprights, and we need a way to connect the stretchers to the uprights so that the stretchers can't roll this way or pitch up and down that way along their length, because there's going to be a 50-pound person jumping up and down on this thing. So a natural solution for that in my mind is to use a dovetail joint, which you see right here, which is cut into the end of all of the stretchers, and then they have the bottom part kind of cantilevered on. They're glued on with dowels through. And that gets the stretchers attached to the legs, but then I need to get some crossbar across to hold them together and also to keep the mattress in. So I added this top bar. Didn't really decide on a joint yet, I just decided to put the top bar on. And that will hold the mattress in place and keep these two relatively close together. But that won't prevent it from racking unless I make these joints really, really strong, which I kind of did, so I probably could have gotten away with it. But we have to worry about racking and we have to worry about splay on the legs. So we need a member down at the bottom that's capable of both pulling the legs in and pushing them out, keeping this whole thing square. So that's where this piece comes in. As far as the design of the joints, when I built this bench, there's a bunch of mortise and tenon work in there, and I kind of enjoyed it. I made my son a little stool using mortise and tenon, so I decided I would do mortise and tenon for this bottom piece. And then for the top, I had originally designed in a dovetail, kind of like this one. But I'm going to wimp out and do a bridle joint. So that's what's in here now. Is a little bridle joint across these. As you can see, this is not glued up yet, so that racking thing is an issue. So it's a bridle joint where I just cut the female slot here out of the top board and then trace that out and cut out this upright. Kind of the same as a slot mortise and tenon, which is actually what it is. It turns out the dovetail probably would have been easier, and I probably should have done that. So, anyway, so it's kind of the design process on this thing. It's just a matter of figuring out what you need to do and what the minimum thing you can do to do it. The no mechanical fasteners bit. So this whole headboard assembly, slash footboard assembly, slash whatever assembly, is all glued up joints. You've got this mortise and tenon right here, which is a really nice long grain to long grain joint, lots of glue, and you have the slot mortise and tenon on the top here, which is another long grain to long grain joint with a lot of power. That's actually part of the reason I chose these two, is up here there's a lot of end grain, so you can't do a butt joint or anything like that. For the stretchers, what I decided to do is make them out of 2 2x4s, and I faced these two together. You can see probably that it's not quite square here, which is me not being very good at this. So I faced those up, clamped them down, drilled holes for the dowels, took them apart, replaned things to make them nice and smooth with a chisel, and then glued it all up. So I think between the glue and the dowels here helping kind of keep it from wanting to twist out, this ain't going anywhere. So this is nice and strong with just glue. That's nice and strong with just glue. The last problem we have to solve without mechanical fasteners is how to keep this attached to that. How we keep the headboard and footboard snug with the stretcher while the monkey jumps. Because this thing is going to want to go back and forth and rack that way. And it's even with these nice, relatively tight actually, I did a decent job on that, dovetails. It's going to work its way loose as he jumps up and down. So how do we retain that? Well, once I actually get the thing done, I'm going to put, sorry, cramped spaces. I'm going to put a couple of dowel pins through here on each one of these. They'll be pretty small, probably 1/2 inch, just enough to keep this thing from wiggling around in its slot. And with those few joints, there's a bridle joint on the top, the mortise and tenon on the bottom, the big butt joint here, and the dovetail right here and on the headboards. We've put together a whole bed out of 8 2x4s using nothing but hand plane, hand saw, and a power drill, and some chisels and, you know, hand tools, without any mechanical fasteners in it. And that makes me happy. I like that. That seems like a good piece of art, sort of. Even though the execution could be better, I like to think of this as kind of Bob Ross painting, but with wood. So anyway, I'll show some more of the plans here soon. It's pretty straightforward. The dimensions don't really matter. You can kind of scale them up to whatever you want to do. You just have to think through every one of these joints. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it brought you some joy of planning and engineering and all of that good stuff. I'm hoping Calvin will enjoy his bed once it's done. And now I gotta figure out how to glue these end pieces up square. My clamps aren't long enough. That might be another video. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and hopefully I'll have something else up again here soon. Bye. Blah, 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 blah.